There is a wooden stick that builds an invisible wall against every crawling pest. No sprays, no powders, no chemical runoff into the water. You push it into the dirt, you leave it alone. The insects stop coming. They do not die, they do not suffer. They simply turn around. They leave the soft tomatoes. They leave the heavy cabbage. They abandon the soil entirely. A single piece of cut wood protects an area the size of a two-car garage. It costs nothing. It requires zero maintenance. Modern agriculture says this cannot happen. Modern agriculture says gardening is a war. They sell you liquids. They sell you dust. They sell you plastic traps. They tell you to buy their weapons year after year. But a quiet community in the deep valleys of Ohio never bought those weapons. The Amish grow massive harvests every single season. Their green leaves are whole. Their red fruit is unbitten. Their dark soil is completely clean. They do not fight the beetles. They do not fight the aphids. They repel them. They use a technique so primitive it was systematically erased from every modern agricultural textbook. A technique requiring nothing but the exact right branch from the exact right tree. No treatment, no preservative, no coating. Chemical companies buried this knowledge. They buried it deep to protect a billion-dollar pesticide empire. They made us forget how simple survival used to be. Today, we dig it up. The archive opens in 1862 in the deep river valleys of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. A harsh winter had just ended. The soil was finally soft. A young farmer named Elias Yoder walked the perimeter of his freshly tilled plot. He carried no seed. He carried no tools. He carried a bundle of pale, rough-cut stakes. He harvested them from the wild Osage orange trees growing near the rushing creek. The wood was dense. The wood was heavy. One bundle weighed 60 to Willoughby, about the same weight as a large sack of grain. Elias pushed the first stake into the earth at the northern corner. He walked 10 paces. He pushed the next stake down. He created a hidden grid. He created a silent boundary. Other settlers watched. They planted their corn. They planted their squash. Weeks passed. The summer heat arrived. With the heat came the swarm. Beetles emerged from the forest edge. Hornworms multiplied under the wide green leaves. Locusts dropped from the humid sky. Neighboring farms lost half their yield in 14 days. The insects devoured the tender stems. The insects stripped the foliage bare. The neighboring English farmers crushed the bugs by hand. They burned sulfur in the fields. They prayed for an early frost. Elias did not burn sulfur. Elias did not lose a single leaf. His vegetables stood tall. His soil remained untouched. The insects reached his property line and stopped. They encountered an unseen wall. They turned back toward the woods. They moved to the unprotected fields instead. The Osage stakes wept a pale, milky sap into the damp earth. The sun warmed the raw wood. The wood released a heavy, bitter vapor into the low air. The Amish community recognized the pattern. They did not need a laboratory to see the truth. They saw the heavy wagons leaving Elias's farm. He harvested $4,000 of produce, enough food to feed 10 families through the long winter. The elders gathered to examine the wood. By 1870, every Amish homestead across the valley adopted the grid. They cut the branches in late autumn. They cured the wood in dry barns. They placed the sticks in the spring. No fields were lost, no crops were eaten. The technique passed from father to son. It became a quiet law of the harvest. The outside world began to industrialize. The outside world built large factories. They boiled copper and arsenic to make Paris green. They sprayed this toxic green dust over their potatoes. They coated their apples in heavy metals. They poisoned the soil to save the crop. They traded their health for absolute control. The Amish kept their wooden stakes. The Amish kept their clean soil. The boundary line between the old ways and the new ways grew sharp. The outside world forgot the power of the raw timber. They forgot that the forest already provided the shield. The archive holds the journals. The archive holds the daily crop records. The ink is faded, the pages are brittle. The truth remains written in plain black text. The old farmers knew the secret of the sap. They knew the secret of the distance. They knew exactly how deep to bury the wood. They recorded the specific measurements. They recorded the exact timing of the timber harvest. Modern historians look at these journals and see superstition. They see primitive folklore. They refuse to look at the math. They refuse to look at the surviving fields. The stakes are still in the ground today. The boundary still holds. The wood is not magic. The wood is chemistry. For 100 years, the agricultural industry ignored the Amish fields. They called it luck. They called it coincidence. Then the microscopes caught up. In 1999, a team of university entomologists cut open an Osage orange branch. The laboratory filled with a sharp citrus scent. They fed the wood into a heavy steel centrifuge. They spun the fibers at high speeds. They made the first discovery. They found a heavy oil hidden deep inside the heartwood. The oil is called elamol. Most trees have trace amounts of defense oils. Pine trees have thin sap. Cedar trees have light oils. The Osage tree holds a massive payload. The researchers measured the concentration. They found elamol levels at exactly 2.5% of the wood's total weight. That is roughly the same weight ratio as the sugar in a large glass of milk. It is a heavy dose. It is a concentrated weapon. They extracted the pure elamol. They tested it against the leading synthetic chemical repellents. They placed hundreds of hungry mosquitoes in a glass box. They painted one side with the chemical DEET. They painted the other side with elamol. The chemical DEET repels mosquitoes for 4 hours. The pure elamol repelled them for 12 hours. It repelled cockroaches. It repelled aphids. It repelled hornworms. The insects refused to cross the painted line. The oil does not kill. The oil confuses. 5 years later, a separate laboratory in Japan uncovered the second discovery. They wanted to know why the insects turned away. They mapped the nervous system of a common garden beetle. They used wires the size of a human hair. They attached these wires directly to the beetle's antennae. Insects do not see the world the way we do. Insects smell the world. They use tiny receptors on their antennae to find the soft leaves. They use them to find the ripe fruit. The scientists placed a raw sliver of Osage wood in the testing chamber. They turned on the monitors. They measured the electrical signals in the beetle's brain. The data spiked. The data immediately flatlined. The elamol vapor binds directly to the insect's scent receptors. It blocks 98% of incoming signals. 98%. That is like wrapping a thick wool blanket over a human face. The beetle goes completely blind. The aphid loses all sense of direction. The insect cannot find the plant. The insect panics. The insect flies away to find clean air. The vapor travels outward from the stick. It creates a dome of protection. The scientists measured the physical drift of the molecules. The data showed the dome extends exactly 6 ft in every direction. A 6 ft is the exact length of a standard adult mattress. A grid of sticks spaced 12 ft apart creates an overlapping wall of vapor. It leaves no gaps. It leaves no entry points. The Amish spacing was perfect. The Amish spacing matched the invisible chemistry long before the microscopes existed. The third discovery happened entirely by accident. Botanists studied the soil beneath the old wooden stakes in Ohio. They dug deep trenches. They expected to find dead earth. Chemical pesticides destroy the soil microbiome. Chemical pesticides kill the good bacteria. They leave the dirt barren. The Osage wood did the exact opposite. The pale sap dripped into the dirt year after year. The elamol mixed with the cold groundwater. The scientists took core samples. They put the dirt under heavy magnification. They measured the fungal networks in the soil. They found a specific strain of beneficial mycorrhizal fungi. The fungi population exploded around the buried wood. It increased by 400% compared to empty soil. 400% is the difference between a small puddle and a deep swimming pool. The elamol feeds the fungi. The fungi feed the plant roots. The network acts like a secondary root system. The tomatoes grow thicker stems. The squash grows deeper roots. The plants pull more water from the earth. The wood protects the leaves from the sky. The wood builds a fortress in the dirt. It heals the ground while it guards the crop. 3 discoveries, 3 sets of hard data. The university published the peer-reviewed papers. The scientific community nodded. The agricultural industry saw the data. The industry executives read the reports. A stick of wildwood outperformed their most expensive liquids. A stick of wildwood outperformed their toxic powders. The stick cost nothing. The stick could be grown in any backyard. The stick lasted for years. They could not patent the living tree. They could not bottle the raw timber. They could not put a price tag on a simple branch. They had a problem. They had a billion-dollar pesticide empire to protect. They had to act. They had to bury the research. They had to make the public forget. The golden age of the Osage shield lasted 80 years. 80 years is the exact length of one long human life. By 1920, the knowledge leaked out of the Ohio valleys. Small farmers across the Midwest planted the thorny trees. They cut the branches. They protected their tomatoes. They protected their wheat. The timber was free. The timber was abundant. Then the Second World War ended. The year was 1945. The factories stopped making explosives. The factories needed a new war. They declared war on nature. The chemical companies looked at the American farm. They saw a massive untapped market. In 1947, a company named DuPont launched a heavy marketing campaign. They released a chemical dust called Marlette. In 1948, the Monsanto Chemical Company pushed synthetic insecticides into every rural hardware store. They relied on a man named Edgar Queeny to drive the expansion. He was the corporate chairman. He understood the cold math of dependency. You sell a farmer a wooden stake, he buys it exactly once. You sell a farmer a chemical liquid, he buys it every single month. A gallon of synthetic insecticide cost $2 in 1950. $2 was the exact price of a heavy pair of leather work boots. It was expensive. It was highly profitable. The chemical corporations could not compete with free wood. They could not patent the sap of a wild tree. So they buried the old knowledge. They bought full-page advertisements in agricultural magazines. They showed pictures of smiling men in white laboratory coats. They showed pictures of dead beetles. They called the old wooden methods backward. They called the physical boundaries obsolete. They funded university science programs. They gave large financial grants to agricultural schools. The grants came with conditions. The textbooks were quietly rewritten. The farming curriculums changed. By 1960, a new generation of farmers went to college. They learned about synthetic nitrogen. They learned about chemical half-lives. They did not learn about Osage orange. They did not learn about the buried wood. The Osage tree was officially reclassified as a nuisance weed. The government paid farmers to bulldoze the old hedgerows. They tore up 200,000 miles of ancient wooden walls. 200,000 miles is enough wood to circle the earth 8 times. They burned the wild timber. They cleared the land for the heavy tractors. They cleared the land for the chemical sprayers. The erasure was systematic. The erasure was total. A billion-dollar pesticide industry was born from the ashes of the wild trees. They traded a permanent, silent shield for a temporary poison. The public forgot the smell of the sap. The public forgot the simple math of the grid. They believed the men in the white coats. They paid the monthly price. They still pay it today. The Amish did not read the magazines. The Amish did not take the university grants. They kept their heads down. They kept their knives sharp. They kept their wood in the dirt. Drive down State Route 89 in Ohio. Leave the city behind. The paved road turns to crushed stone. The crushed stone turns to packed dirt. You enter Holmes County. You look at the commercial farms on the border. You hear the loud diesel engines. You smell the sharp chemical spray in the morning wind. Then you cross the county line. The air changes, the noise stops. You see a man named Silas. He walks his long tomato rows. His hands are bare. His face is uncovered. He does not wear a plastic respirator. He does not wear heavy rubber gloves. His soil is pitch black. His soil smells like deep rain. He holds a sharp steel knife. He holds a heavy piece of pale wood. The wood is wild Osage orange. Silas cuts these branches every single November. He stacks them in his dry wooden barn. He cures them for exactly 5 months. 5 months is the exact length of a harsh Midwestern winter. The ground thaws. Spring arrives. Silas walks the perimeter of his massive garden. He measures a distance of 12 feet. 12 feet is the exact length of a standard family sedan. He drives a wooden stake deep into the soft earth. He takes a breath. He walks another 12 feet. He drives another thick stake. He surrounds the young green plants. He builds the silent, invisible wall. The modern agricultural scientists occasionally watch from the highway. They park their trucks. They observe the heavy red tomatoes. They document the thick green cabbage. The leaves are entirely whole. The stems are completely unbitten. The scientists check the local insect data. The surrounding commercial farms are currently losing 20% of their entire crop to hornworms and Japanese beetles. 20% is 1 out of every 5 plates of food. Silas loses 0%. His yield is pristine. He does not buy the synthetic liquids. He does not buy the toxic powders. He relies on the thick sap. He relies on the bitter vapor. He trusts the heavy wood. Tourists stop their cars by the wooden fence. They ask him what brand of pesticide he sprays. They look for the hidden plastic bottles. They search for the empty chemical jugs. They find absolutely nothing. Silas points his calloused finger to the wooden sticks. He points to the wild thorny trees growing by the rushing creek. The tourists do not believe him. They shake their heads. They cannot comprehend a farming solution without a scanned barcode. They cannot understand a crop defense without a monthly price tag. The truth is standing right in front of them. The truth is quietly rooted in the dark dirt. The Amish never stopped using the wooden grid. They never forgot the raw chemistry of the wild timber. They watched the outside world systematically poison the ground. They kept their own ground perfectly clean. They are the living witnesses. They are the unbroken chain. The wooden shield still holds. The wooden shield never broke. You do not need a massive farm to build this wall. You only need the right wood. Find an Osage orange tree. Look for the sharp thorns. Look for the heavy green fruit in the autumn. The fruit is the exact size of a large softball. Cut the branches in late November. The sap is thickest when the cold arrives. Choose branches as thick as a bare human wrist. Cut them into stakes. Make them exactly 3 feet long. 3 feet is the exact length of a standard acoustic guitar. Store them in a dry place. Wait for the spring. Wait for the dirt to thaw. Take the cured stakes to your garden. Measure the perimeter of your vegetable bed. Space the stakes exactly 12 feet apart. Drive them into the soil. Push them exactly 12 inches deep. 12 inches is the exact length of a standard school ruler. The depth protects the wood from heavy wind. The depth anchors the vapor dome. The Osage orange will begin to seep. The scent will rise. You will not smell it. The beetles will smell it. The hornworms will smell it. Leave the wood alone. Do not paint it. Do not seal it. The raw grain must touch the raw earth. 1 set of stakes will last for 5 years. 5 years is the exact lifespan of a modern car battery. When the wood turns pale gray, it is empty. You pull the old wood out. You push the new wood in. You throw the old stakes into the compost. They will feed the soil one last time. The cycle repeats. The defense holds. The chemical companies want you to buy their plastic bottles. They want you to fight a forever war in your own backyard. They want you to fear the summer swarm. You do not have to fight. You do not have to poison your food. You only have to remember the old ways. You only have to trust the raw timber. The invisible wall is waiting to be built. Now you know. If this story changed the way you look at the simple tools of nature, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the history they tried to bury. Let us plant the future together. The next treasure will be revealed soon.